Hello, good morning, and welcome to the webinar SAP Fiori and UI5 apps. Today's webinar is going to be recorded. It's going to be a 1-hour webinar. I'm sharing my PowerPoint screen, as you can see. Everyone who is joining this Hangout on air is going to be on mute. So during the webinar, if you have questions, you can place them in the chat window, and I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Sana Salam, and I live in Toronto, Canada. And I'm the founder of Sodales Solutions. I come from SAP background where my job was to work on failing, derailed, struggling SAP projects, which were mostly very complicated and mostly on the financial side, reporting and planning and consolidation side, and turned them around as a project manager by working with different teams. And that's what I noticed, and that's what motivated me to create my company. And last year, I created Sodales Solutions with a team from SAP Germany. And we are 1 year old, but as a team, in a very short period of time, we have achieved a lot. So I want to tell you a little bit about our company. We are now SAP certified mobility partner, and we are also an award-winning SAP partner. Our approach is very, very different from other companies because our approach is very rapid, very simple, and very cost-effective. Everything is around how we can leverage the client's existing IT landscape in their licenses, and how can we make the solution delivered in a more faster fashion. And that's where we have a lot of internal tools that help us do that. And then thirdly is the entire team came from SAP product development, who were involved in building SAP Fiori, SAP mobile apps, especially on the financial side, SAP's most used app, which is a CRM app, and also SAP HANA. Our core is really thinking about how we can simplify the process of our clients, and everything that we design is always cross-platform and cross-industry, and that's not possible in a lot of approaches that are out there. So we have done some internal R&D to make that happen for our clients, so that we can make sure that they have everything for future needs. And then finally, we also understand the importance of big data. So we make sure that if the client has a HANA platform, we can integrate it with that, but we can also develop applications without HANA as well. So that's a little bit about us, and these are our awards and recognitions. Over the last 1 year, we were recognized by Microsoft for our innovation and simplicity within enterprise mobility. And again, we were mentioned at Google within a campaign with Google and SAP. Our apps were highlighted there. And then finally, we were the first SAP partner in the entire world to launch an app that was using the concepts of Fiori, SAP Fiori and UI5. And it was a benchmark app because it used an entire process, not just a task, to simplify SAP processes. And in this case, we use a month-end close process, and we simplified it. So that's a little bit about us. Today's webinar, if you just look at on your right side, you'll see a chat window. You can post your questions there. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to take your questions and answer them. Or you can always email me as well, no problem. Okay. So I'm just going to go over our extensive agenda. We're going to go over a little bit of background on Fiori, and I'm going to try to give you some new information that's just recently out there. And then I'll show you a demonstration of the first and second wave of apps, and then we'll go through the technical architecture. The prerequisites is a big question that I heard on SAP Sapphire. And then the other one that I hear a lot from our clients is on the what does a project look like? What is the project milestones? What does it involve? And then in the end, I want to show you how, what are the customization options for Fiori? Or if you want to build your own Fiori-like apps, what can you do? Because that's another big question we get from our clients. So very good. So Fiori started from Nestle back in, I think, 2012. And this is a project where my team was initially working, and the whole idea was for Nestle to become a more consumer-centric company. They had literally every single product of SAP, but still they had user adoption issues, and they wanted to improve the work environment and operational efficiencies. So in the end, Fiori was created by working with the users of Nestle, and it was 30, 60, 90-day breakdown type of project where they did design thinking sessions and created the design that would involve more of a task-based approach instead of functional module approach. And as a result, there was a 75% keystroke reduction. So it looks like keystroke reduction, but it's not really that. It really is about simplifying the processes and the tabs and those daunting screens that you look at in SAP to make sure that you can just get the job done very quickly and not have to go through those lengthy binders of instructions. Especially if you have a lot of systems, something like this makes a lot of sense. So as a result, what was seen was that there was a survey done at Nestle, and they found out there was a huge improvement in the obstacles that users were seeing in their work. So what they saw was that people's work performance dramatically increased, and the technical obstacles, which were really user training issues, they were not seeing those anymore. And that became the inspiration for SAP to now launch this as a product and roll it out to other customers as well. Although it seems no-brainer when you look at it, in hindsight, because we all understand how complicated and complex SAP is, and we all want to simplify it because we're spending millions of dollars in change management cost. So that's a bit of background of what SAP Fiori was about. And in the course of this process, they also decided to make it work with all the devices, not just desktop. So it works with mobile devices as well as desktop as well as laptops. So because we do have a lot of users who use laptops, especially finance users. So if you look at the traditional GUI, you'll see all these tabs and fields, and you would know that we wish we didn't have all these tabs here, and we could just default a lot of information, and we could derive the parameters, and as well as we wish that we didn't have to remember all the T codes, because it just it's a pressure on our brain cells. But as with Fiori, it solves this challenge because you actually don't need to do that anymore. With Fiori, it simplifies not just the screens but the process, and as a result, you are seeing less information on your screen, and you're seeing what you need to see. So here is the before picture, and now here is the after picture that you would see, and you can see how intuitive and beautiful it looks. It's something that you would want to use, not that you have to use. You don't have to feel miserable using the system. You actually feel good about using the system and feel motivated to do the work. And that's the whole idea about Fiori. So that's a little bit of background in Fiori. I'm going to tell you how this was done. If you look at SAP, you remember that we do all the implementations in the modules, functional modules, and each functional module is a functional module in its area, and they all evolve at different times, and they all have different type of screens and look and feel and fields. Similarly, if you look at all the product lines, ERP, CRM, SRM, and now BW as well, and EPM as well, they all have their own look and feel because SAP as a company evolved over time. Now many clients have many SAP products, and one of the challenges they all have is how do we train users with this new coding block every single time? How do we train users on this where to find the information? You might be calling something master data in one system, but you might be calling it metadata in a different system, or dimension members in a different system, and these are all SAP systems. So therefore, Fiori is created to also solve that terminology issue as well, because now everything is role-based, and it uses a language which is more global. It uses the information that they need to see, and there is a one entry point. So instead of you logging into 10 different systems, you actually see a launch pad. You only see the things that you want to see. And as a company, if you're just beginning to adopt mobility, you can have those 5 things that everybody needs, all the employees or managers need. So it's really, based on your needs. It's created to suit your needs. So that's a bit of how they created Fiori. They really broke down functional process into task-based process, because that's how you actually write your business process documents, training documents as well. So the whole idea is to make the system so intuitive that you don't have to train your users how to use it. That's the whole idea about Fiori. The other thing that we hear about a lot about Fiori is there's a lot of confusion about Fiori with mobility and persona. So I'm going to clarify that what is Fiori and what it is not. So Fiori is not a mobile strategy. Fiori is not about, now you don't need a mobile platform and you can just use Fiori. Mobile platform type of projects will still be there for really, really extensive mobile implementations where you have many devices, too many processes, and too many, users. But Fiori can work with platform as well and without the platform, because the whole idea is to leverage what you have. So Fiori is really, really good for those customers who don't have mobility today, and if they're trying to now get their first foot in the door and get the flavor of mobility, as well as they're trying to simplify the processes. Even if you are using the mobile platform, the new mobile platform in the new SMP3 uses some of the Fiori interface just because of how easy it is to design and how beautiful it is. The second thing I want to tell you is that Fiori isn't just lightweight. In the beginning, yes, it was lightweight in the beginning. And in the beginning, people talked about that Fiori is for very simple scenarios. Yes, that's correct, but that was in the beginning. Today, Fiori is about even complicated scenarios like MRP runs, where you have an entire process running task by task by task, and you know how painful it is to train our users on MRP runs, and there's an entire team right before go live trying to test this and trying to write documentation about it. So the complex scenarios can very easily be handled by Fiori, and this is old information where we said Fiori is lightweight, because Fiori is now becoming the new design direction of SAP. The other thing is that I'm going to tell you is personas in Fiori. People really confuse them a lot. Personas are for people who have no technical background and just want to simplify their screens and simplify the look and feel of how the SAP looks. For example, you might have a field user who wants to call a plant as a rig, and you don't want to change that terminology for him. So you can personalize that screen and rename that field to a rig instead of going back in the back end and changing the field name. So it's really about kind of putting a mask on your screens. That's what personas are about. Fiori, on the other hand, isn't just about personas or screen simplification. It is not also a screen scrape version or shrunken version of your SAP. It's more about simplifying the entire process as well, which is happening in the back end. And really what they did was they took the function process and broke it down in a task. And every single Fiori app has 113 principle. So because 3 is easy to remember. So you will have one type of user, one use case, which is really a task, and then 3 screens. If it's a process-based Fiori app, then you would have many apps in the launchpad. That's the only difference. And then you have all the apps speaking the same language. The good news is that all of this is free. Personas you can install by yourself. You don't need consulting support. There's good enough documentation. If you have questions, we can help you with that as well. Fiori, on the other hand, you are going to need a little bit of consulting support, which is very inexpensive to afford. And there are fixed price packages. You don't just need you would be able to download the app, but the setup and landscape assessment and the rollout, you are going to need some development support. So that's a little bit about what is Fiori and what it is not. So overall, just if you want to remember the true benefits of Fiori, remember that why why it is good for as a good starting point is because it's going to leverage what you have in house, so you don't have to invest in additional SAP licenses, and it's a very quick way for you to go mobile as well as have a very low cost approach. So these are some of the benefits of Fiori. What I see from my customers is that it solves the user adoption issues and save them paper and ad hoc requests, especially from if you look at the in-house office staff. They have all the knowledge of SAP, and they have a desk. They have their T codes and their favorites, but their bosses don't, and the people on the field don't. So they're calling them all day asking for ad hoc requests, and it is wasting their time. So I think with Fiori, you can empower those users and let them use the system the way they want and get the information out of it without having to learn it. And the back office staff can just focus on their own work. And I think that is, I find as a very fascinating benefit of Fiori. So that's a little bit about what Fiori really does for you. So Fiori is not just about productivity apps. So there's some confusion out there about that as well. Fiori actually has 4 different types of apps, and you might have just seen the transactional apps as of today. And there's a confusion about does it use HANA or not. So I'm going to answer that question. There are 4 types of apps: transactional, analytical, fact sheets, and smart business. There is the transactional apps, which have been adopted by a lot of customers so far, and these are a workflow approval type of apps, and shopping cart, and HR timesheet type of apps, travel management apps. The analytical apps were the second one that were designed, which had a lot of dashboards and capabilities that you would do in business warehouse. All of those use HANA as a database. So if you download that app, the app itself would be free, and yes, there will be some implementation costs, but you are going to require HANA for that. And then the fact sheets and smart business apps and the second ones. I am going to set up another webinar to show you a demonstration of those apps as well. And today, however, I will just talk about it at high level. So the other apps are more about for KPIs and for more instant information, instant processing. And because in many cases they are using your business warehouse, your business objects that could have millions of records, and they're not using aggregated information, that's why they required HANA, because you need that speed for the app to process the information very quickly, unless you're using another workaround, which I can talk to you about when we go in the next slides. So the transactional apps are the most adopted ones, and that's the one that you would have seen a lot of information on the internet, because they're more mature now. So here's wave 1, and I'm going to show you wave 2, because I'm going to focus on today's webinar the apps that are using the regular database, the one that you have in-house. Could be SQL or Oracle, whatever database you're using. So if you look at all these apps, you have employee, manager, sales rep, purchasing, production type of apps. Many customers actually start with the purchasing type of apps, because that's something that and also HR, human resources side, because that's where they have the most problem with users to just get their things done very quickly. One thing you need to notice is that Fiori itself is a front-end product. And then of course there's a mapping which extracts your data and process from your backend. But Fiori is not going to go and configure your backend workflow. So if you don't have some of these processes configured in your backend, Fiori is not going to work for you. So not every app is applicable for every customer. It will be applicable based on what your business scenario is. So that's where you can see Fiori as a good inspiration, but you would then need to personalize or customize it to your needs. It definitely is a great starting point and an idea which gives you mobility in a very cost-effective way. So this is why it's becoming highly popular. But in many cases, if you just use a vanilla app, you might need a little bit of setup on the back end to make sure your processes are set up correctly as well. So that's a little bit about what apps use any database versus what apps have using a non-SAP database, a non-HANA database. Okay, so here is, I'm going to show you the demonstration very quickly. Okay, so just bear with me. Okay, I'm just gonna wait for a second for it to load. Okay, very good. So on my screen, you should be able to see now a launchpad of Fiori. The launchpad it kind of looks boring though. Anyway, so it has a lot of apps, and the apps are have SAP tasks. This is not the newest demo. The newest demos are more colorful and have a lot of pictures. But the demo that is publicly available is what I'm sharing with you right now. But it just trust me, it looks much more beautiful now. So if you see here, just think of yourself as that employee or a manager who's got all these tasks that he needs to do, just like you have apps on your cell phone. And what you would like to do is, instead of going to typing a T code and a process, you would like to have them in a launchpad. And if you have an employee who needs 5 and the other employee needs 10, that's what they will see in their launchpad. They will only see what they need to see, so it works with your security setup. And if you look at this, you have each app as one of the tasks. So let's look at one of the app. We can look at approving timesheets, which actually is a very painful process. If you look at SAP's timesheet system, this looks much more intuitive. You can see that you can you have the information, just the right information that you need to see. One more thing I want to mention here: Fiori is not a good product for customers who need every single field on their screen. It's not a really good product. If you want to leverage and utilize every single field, which is actually not the case I've seen with any of my clients, but if you want that, then you shouldn't be going Fiori, because you've already gotten a very complicated scenario. So it is, in this case, a lot of fields and information is actually derived, and it's only showing what you need to see. So here is what you're seeing in terms of a timesheet approval, and once you're done, you can go back and let me show you something where we are entering something. So here is my leave request. You can enter a new leave request. So here, if you see, when I entered, I'm seeing 3 different apps once I entered into one of the apps, because this is more like a process-based app, and it needed 3 different tasks that needed to be executed. So you're able to look at it in a more easy to use fashion. The other one that I can show you. Okay, here's approving purchase orders. So if you remember, I think in the beginning of the presentation, I showed you a screen of SAP, and that was SAP purchase order, and that looked really ugly. So this one is, if you can see, is much more cleaner, slick, something that you should feel motivated to use, and it has information that you can understand in simple language. Of course, you see some of these fields, and if you have users who don't know what Z00 is, this part can also be customized. Like you can put labels, and you can define your own labels if you don't want to have parameters showing which look like programming codes. If you don't want to have 0001 showing, you can change that as well in the look and feel, and that's the beauty about using this kind of interface. So here is so that's a little bit about Fiori demo. I'm not going to show you the analytical apps today, but that is something that we're going to show you in our next webinar. Here's another one you can look at. This is about ordering from requisitions, and you can see it has a very specific similar look and feel. I'm going to show you one more thing here, and that is about Fiori's design guidelines. If you look at all of the Fiori apps that I just showed you, they are using a very specific type of principles for the user interface, the grid layout, the navigation, the theme, and prototyping kit, and also the launchpad. So this is very, very standard. It's now being standardized. This website that I'm showing you is actually a beta website. It's not even ready yet by SAP, and they're just in the first time process of designing all these standards. But in the end, the idea is that there are going to be, Fiori is the new design direction for them, from them, because if you look at the apps that are out there in the SAP store or SAP marketplace, they have all sorts of look and feel, and it's not consistent. So with Fiori now, it's now being standardized and being made consistent as well. But this is being launched. You have to understand that this is just like any technology. Everything is in an evolving stage. But this is the new design direction, because if you look at all the new products that are coming out from SAP, including the mobile platform, SAP Simple Finance, all the new products, they are all using Fiori interface. So from the front end, you won't see a change. It will be the same. It's just the back end will use different types of products. So that's a little bit about a demonstration and understanding of Fiori. I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. Okay. So I think now I want to talk about the technical architecture. So here's what the technical architecture looks like. If you remember, I don't know how many of you are aware of SAP Mobile Platform. When Mobile Platform came out, that was a big thing. But the problem with Mobile Platform at that point was that the accelerators or the components that were available were not so easy to consume or easy to develop unless you are probably a rocket scientist and you know a lot about the development. The good thing about Fiori is that you can hire those skills for very cheaply. Secondly, if you have a mobile platform strategy already and that's where you want to go, you can then combine Fiori on top of it, because that's what now the new mobile platform is using as well. Or you can implement Fiori without the mobile platform, and many clients are actually going that way. That's the most popular way, because they're in their internal management, they're seeing that in order for them to get their executive buy-in from their steering committee or their management, they need to be able to sell the whole idea of mobility, and they weren't quite ready. So they needed to first simplify the process and simplify the used look and feel, and then bring it back in. So if you look at this architecture, you're using the backends. Fiori out of the box uses ECC, CRM, and SRM. There is a middleware which is called Open Data or NetViewer Gateway, which is using open data, which means it can bring data from any of these platforms. The data mapping and exposure is done in Gateway, and there is then the front end, which is really composing the HTML5 web app. The good news is, if you are an ECC, you don't have to spend money on licenses to buy any of these components. You just need to be on a certain patch level, and you are good to go. Your landscape can be easily set up. You can download those components, and you're good to go to design with Fiori. So that's those basically just two components is what you need. UI5, which is SAP's libraries, and it's a programming model given by SAP and uses a lot of theming and branding concepts. It works with all the platforms. As you can see, I'm using an iPad, desktop, and phone, and it is then integrated with the Gateway middleware. So Gateway can be installed directly on your, it's a NetWeaver product, so it can be installed directly, set up directly to work with your ECC, CRM, or SRM backend. Here's the prerequisites for Fiori. You will see that the ERP side, you need to be on SPS 15, and if you're not, that's something that you can set up very, very easily. There is no workaround if you're not on ECC 6. ECC 6.0 and SPS 15 is the minimum mandatory requirement to run SAP Fiori, and that also I'm talking about the apps that work with any database. If you're using the HANA-based apps, then you need HANA as well, unless you're using a workaround. For customers who are running on older version of ECC, they will need to upgrade to ECC 6 because SAP is not providing any maintenance support for ECC 5, and it ended in 2013, and that's why it's mandatory for you to do it. All the other components are free libraries, and you don't need to invest in licenses to get those. So I hope it clarifies your questions about the prerequisites. So again, I'm just going to emphasize that HANA is only required for the analytical Fiori apps, and you can use a workaround which is something that we do a lot at Sodales, where we are building our own Fiori-like apps, and we're leveraging the existing database of our clients. There are tons of new accelerators to implement Fiori now. Just like any product, as it became more popular, SAP came up with the accelerators and templates to expedite the development of Fiori. The first one is Eclipse. It's a template that generates automatic code for Fiori. And it is a browser-based development tool for SAP UI5, and it helps to speed up the application development. It actually does two things. One is it lets you extend the user interface of an existing Fiori transactional or analytical app, so you can extend the code. The second one is it generates starter apps for you using a predefined template and open data service. And so the starter apps or starter kit has UI screens and generated codes already. Many clients who have in-house technical development teams are using this to build their own Fiori apps. They're downloading the app, and it's, they do need a little bit of consulting support to help them set it up, maybe a week or so. And then in a week, once they learn how to build it using Eclipse, they are good to go, and they're developing and deploying their own Fiori apps as well. The other one is the newest one. It just came out a few weeks ago, I think 3-4 weeks ago. It's RDE, River Development Environment. It's even better because it also gives you mock data to support backend independent application testing. It saves a lot of time in terms of development, and it has a lot of code editors that come with it. There is a template-based project and resource creation that it comes with, and the big thing about this river development environment, that it was created to also allow or help the very non-technical people to start designing their own Fiori apps. But in what we noticed is, in our case, we had to train a little bit our clients, and once they understood it, they were able to then set up their own apps. And again, that was a very, very quick process. And that you can do if you have in-house people who have ABAP experience or HTML5 experience, and they want to learn it. In terms of a typical project overview, there's also a lot of confusion because there are lots of companies. I see that there's they have designed free fixed price packages, but what do you actually do in a Fiori project? So it's actually very simple. Each scenario takes 2 days. If you have an out-of-the-box scenario, the development effort is very, very quick. The landscape setup can just take half of the day. It's very, very quick because it's everything's now in an accelerated mode, the way SAP is delivering it. It has, if you're adding new fields, just like I showed you in the previous screens, you may not see all the fields that you need. You may have to add new fields that like customized field, or you want more information. Then it can take up to 2 to 5 days, depending on the number of fields you're adding in your Fiori app. And then if you're doing an entire custom app, because you have very, very custom requirements, then it can take up to 10 to 20 days, which, if you look at the mobile platform type of projects, this is actually very quick. So in this case, you are not going through the big giant middleware of mobile platform, but you are just designing the Fiori app, and you are able to quickly mobilize and simplify processes in just days. And that's where it becomes very powerful. Your rollout will depend on your landscape, how complicated it is. So try to get that aligned in the beginning, whoever, within your team. And also the level of customization that you're doing in your app. And of course, each app will have different type of customization, because your backend may have different type of customization in the backend. If you are a customer who has very less customization, very standard processes, then I think Fiori is the best option for you. It's very, very good for you. When we start, we usually do a few hours in Envision workshop, which we offer our clients for free. And once we understand their landscape and what is it, the process that they're looking for, they come to us and they say they need Fiori, but at that time they don't know which app and which app would fit. And so we have to kind of do this workshop with them. And once we get on the same page in terms of what is it that they need, we set up the test installation in their development environment, and develop a proof of concept. And at that time, there's only 5% of upfront investment. And that eliminates a lot of your risk. And once they see the proof of concept working with their data, their process, and their backend, there's at that time we do a fit gap analysis, and then personalize it to their coding, their label, and all of that, and test and roll out. So it's very, very quick in and out. So that's one of the that's a sample project of Fiori. It's a bit different from what you will see in a typical ERP or other BW or other type of projects. It's a bit different. If you're doing many, many Fiori apps, then try to have a roadmap. Don't do all the apps in your first round. Do 1 app or 2 apps, or maybe 5 apps in the first round, and then come back and do the other ones later, just because you also want to make sure that you're successful internally and you're gathering the feedback from your own users as well. And then, once you get to a point, then you should start innovating with new apps as well, which are more UI5 based or HTML5 based. The other thing I want to show you is if you are trying to start with Fiori, at Sodales we offer many packages. We have fixed price packages which are very cost effective, because as a company we are building our client portfolio, so we are especially considering price as a point, and of course a good quality, because we are looking for building a client portfolio of references, and therefore we are offering very good price packages where we are providing this package development for Fiori apps, and we will help you with the Envision workshop and all the way to the productive usage of Fiori. Internally, we have developed a lot of accelerators that help us even do it faster. So there are 3 types of packages. One is one tier, which is one of your backend can use it, and then the second, which many clients need it just to try out Fiori in there and make sure it is even right for them. Second and third one is for if you have more than one backend, like ERP and SRM or CRM. If you just have one backend, which is most of our clients are looking for, then we can give you a separate package for that as well. What we're noticing is that it's becoming highly popular is when you're doing a new implementation, because that's where you're saving the change management cost. So that's another thing about this whole use of Fiori. If you need your own UI5 app, and first of all, the question is, why would you need that? Why would you need your own UI5 app or Fiori-like app? I think, in my personal opinion, SAP has only addressed a very small fraction of the needs of the users. When we talk to our clients, they do like the user interface of Fiori, but when you go through their process has a lot of unhappy moments and wasteful moments, and it can be optimized. So what we do is we work with them and we create their UI5 based app, which looks exactly like Fiori. It uses the same design principles as Fiori. And we internally at Sodales have built an entire catalog of that, and some of those examples are our month-end process application, which uses the same concept as Fiori. Our there's other one is the month-end process works with ERP, BW, EPM, or any financial backend type of product, and we bring the entire month-end checklist. And the app looks just like Fiori, and this is the app that won an award. And the other one is the other one that you'll see on this right side is a KPI dashboard, and this one works with EPM products, BW. This was recognized by Google as well, and you can see you can build an entire dashboard using a Fiori-like concept. So when I say Fiori-like concept, I'm just saying you won't have to buy additional licenses. You're leveraging what you have, and you can get this output. The third one is, we built KPI dashboards, and none of these require HANA. So this one is where we are building root cause analysis of your variance analysis in a drill down approach all the way to your ERP or your backend, whatever backend you're using. And that this app is another app that we've developed. And finally, it's hard to see, but we can demo it to you next time. It's a project systems app. If you know SAP project systems, you would know how complicated it is. So we've taken the entire project systems process and all the key processes and put them into a Fiori-like application. And on top of that, we built native containers, which will allow us to extract any of these apps as a native app that would work on the mobile device as a native application. So you can use the camera functionality and take pictures and attach. and do voice recording and add annotations. Annotations were very important for financial users because they had to mark comments on the reports. So there's an entire catalog. We won't be able to go into that today at all because of the timing, and also this is something we want to do in our subsequent webinar. So we'll be coming back soon, and we'll show you some of these applications and show you how we can help you build some of these in your scenario. We also have field service processes, like an entire warehouse management process that we have built using Fiori concept as well. We're a big fan of this architecture, so as you can see. So this is what it would involve if you were to build your own customized Fiori-like app. So say you look at Fiori apps and you say, you know what, all of these are just approvals type of apps, or they require HANA, and I don't think none of these fit in my portfolio or my needs. But this is my need. I need this process to be simplified, or I have this this process about service notification where I need to integrate GPS. You need to integrate other things too. So of course Fiori won't fit there, but you like the concept of Fiori because it's leveraging your IT investments. That's when you're going to need a UI5 app. So this is what the project would look like. So we always start with design thinking. All of our team members are certified in design thinking, which is SAP's new direction as well. So we use that to go through your process envisioning. Then the next step, once the design thinking is done, at the end of design thinking, we actually create a wireframe or a cheap prototype for you, which if you don't like, we can scrap it. And once we agree on a prototype, we then set up basic settings, and then create a working prototype. And that everything isn't done in the sprint of 2 weeks or sprint of 1 week, because we use agile project methodology. And then there's a validation where you're running the prototype through your most painful pain point and saying, okay, does it fit or does it not fit? So that's another point. It's very similar to how you would build a Fiori app, but I would say it's very similar to how you would build any project that has a visual component. If you have a project that has a visual component, do not do it without a prototype, and do not do it without design thinking, because you want to involve the actual users to come up with ideas. And you're seeing this as a UI5 project methodology, but we use this at Sodales for literally everything, because we don't really believe in doing those documented long blueprints which get lost in translation. We show everything as a working prototype, and then we do fit gap through the entire project. And that way you always have a working solution at a certain point in time. And it removes a lot of confusion and communication gaps that would result in very late change requests. So that's our methodology overall as well. The scenarios can take any time from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So you can see that designing your own UI5 type of app is not also very expensive, or doesn't take very long as well. So that's an approach for your UI5 app. Here's an architecture. If you were to build your own app that uses the concept of Fiori, because we at Sodales have built apps for SAP BPC and BW and SRM, not just the typical Fiori backends. You will see all the new other backends here as well. And we built our own accelerators that allow us to do it faster and in terms of integration as well. There are 2 types of deployment models that we provide, and that can do a centralized gateway maintenance versus not centralized, which would mean where are you controlling your data extraction process. So we're going to go into more details of this in our next upcoming sessions, but not today. I just wanted to give you a flavor that this option is out there, and this is actually becoming very popular as well, because not all Fiori apps fit your profile, but you like the idea. So I think I would like to take some questions. We have 10 minutes left, and I see some questions posted here, so I can definitely answer. Um, the first one is about, and this is something we get a lot. The first one is about the need for Fiori, if it's going to be the new strategy, or how confident are we that this is the right user interface strategy, and then how do we know that SAP is not going to change the strategy again? And the other point is that today, if customers are investing in Fiori, how do they know that tomorrow SAP won't revamp and won't create something new? So I would like to answer that. I'm actually gonna just end the show here and draw something on a Word document to explain this to you. It's a very, very good question, by the way, because I get this a lot, and I even got this question at SAP Sapphire from SAP people. I mean, their own team asked me this question, which I found was quite interesting. So here is what I would like to tell you. I hope you can see my my Word document that I'm sharing on the screen. Okay. So if you look at the evolution of technology or mobility, you would remember that many, many years ago it was just email. Mobility was just about email and text. Then later it became about, okay, we have all these field service people and they need and you know, it's just for them. And at that time nobody thought about that mobility could also be a very good simplification tool. Or you know, you need to simplify processes. People were just so busy implementing all sorts of products. And then there's another wave that came out that was about you know, you need to have more analytical capabilities and be able to combine data from different sources. And that came around Facebook time, when you had social media and machine data that you needed to integrate. And then finally, over the last few years, there were a lot of projects that failed terribly, with millions and millions of dollars of failure, because they had user adoption issues. So what happened with that? As these problems were arising, the technology was evolving and trying to match and solve the needs that were arising. The technology is always created to solve a problem. So when we had email and text, at that time we only had mobile devices in-house, given by corporate to corporate executives who would be able to email and text when they're traveling. When things got out of the hands, and we needed to also serve our field service needs, then we had to invest in platform-based approach. So at that time, Sybase was a really, really famous and more mature product because of how it came. It came with the pre-built codes, or you can say containers, and parts and components that would allow you to do mobility very, very quickly. So then Sybase came out, right? And then from Sybase there was a need for Cyclo, because Cyclo had a lot of approval and asset management type of apps, right? So why did SAP invest in those? And then whenever they invest, they tell their customers and their partners to invest as well, because you have to quickly build those skills and you have to invest in those platforms. So then these things came out. However, none of these things were talking to each other. And so therefore SAP had to combine all of this and come up with something called SAP Mobile Platform. Again, evolve with the timing, with how the time evolved. And if you look at mobile platform, it itself went through version 1, 2, and version 3. Up to version 1 and version 2, there were so many shortcomings in it. For example, up to version 2, if you needed a device agnostic app, and you had to, then your only option was hybrid web container. Now I might be speaking French for many of you, but I'm sorry, I'm just trying to answer a question. So if you look at that, at that time it had so many limitations, and the hybrid web container didn't allow you to pass a lot of information through the data information. So there was then more need to fix that problem, and that's when the mobile platform 3 has a lot of intuitive capabilities, and it now combines the idea of Fiori. It's really the idea or architecture of Fiori to address the device agnostic and platform agnostic approach. And it is a platform, which means you have to invest in licenses, and you have to put kind of a middleware in the middle. And if you're going to have thousands and thousands of devices and thousands of different processes, it's a way to go for you. But there are many companies who are saying, you know what? I don't want to invest in a platform. I just want to address just this one need that I have. And we call them as context-specific problems. People who want to have a Facebook-like user adoption issues, they want to just solve one problem. You know, for example, they want to know, can my sales people enter their BPC forecast you know, on their iPad without having to invest in EPM Unwired? Or can I have my warehouse team run a process without going through this entire you know, platform and middleware approach, because that would take us 2 years to get there, and by that time there will be a new version out there. So for those people, Fiori or Fiori-like apps are a great answer, and not just for today, not just as a starting point, but for future as well. And why is that? Is because if you look at all the upcoming SAP investments, every single one, including the big announcement about SAP Simple Finance that came out on Sapphire, and we're working very closely with SAP. We're working with their co-innovation team, so we know this, is that all of the products are using the idea of Fiori or the idea of UI5 plus gateway. It's the same thing, you know, is equal Fiori. They're using this idea or approach to design any front-end product. So I think the point that I'm trying to make it is, like everything in life, technology is always evolving, and it is a challenge for all of us that technology will evolve more and more over the next years, and we have to catch up. And in order for us to catch up, we need quick wins. And because if you invest in a big platform, unless you're going cloud, you have to know that by the time you will finish your implementation, which will take you 2 years, there will already be a new version out there. So for the clients who are not ready to, you know, go on cloud or go invest big time, this is a great product for them to start adopting mobility and start adopting simplification. And if you don't want to do it for mobility, do it for the sake of process simplification. And if you talk about the process simplification, I want to tell you there are now at least half of the SAP development team internally. All the products that they have they're building the enhancement on the front end using this Fiori idea. So we really see this as a future direction of SAP, and that's how they're marking it. But it doesn't mean that all the other products are bad. Those products are created for certain type of use. So I think in order to answer your question, I would say that if you're investing in Fiori, you're not investing in something that you would be wasting money on. It is the future direction, but what we would need to look at is what else do you need. And I think that's the best that I can answer. And I drew this picture to show you that it was an evolution, always an evolution with technology, of how SAP reacted or supported the needs of the outside marketplace. And I'd be happy to answer this in a more on a personal basis to you if you send me your questions. So in the closing, I'm just looking at if we have any more questions. Okay. In the closing, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I'm a very friendly person, so you can feel free to reach out to me. And here's my email address. I'm just going to quickly show it to you. Here's my email address, and if you are if you have a you're interested in Fiori or Fiori-like apps or want to learn more about it, I would love to have an invasion workshop with you and see if this is something that fits your needs. It will be a 1 hour or 45 minutes to 1 hour workshop, and we will determine together if this is for you. And my email address is on the screen. You can see it. This webinar recording will be uploaded on YouTube, and you'll be able to see all of your links. The help links are also going to be posted. The links that I shared with you during our webinar session, you'll be able to see those as well. And I think that's it. I'm going to send out another webinar invite to teach you more about UI5 apps, and please feel free to send me your questions, and I would love to have a chat with you and answer those to my best knowledge. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for listening to this webinar, and we really are excited for your participation. Thank you, and have a great day.